Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 27th, 2017.
Warning: The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Bones, Billy Bones, send him off to Davy Jones of rum and gold and wench's bone. You had your last fill, Billy Bones.
Welcome to the Savage Nation, Billy Bones, Billy Bones, Billy Bones. Death stalked them when they were at sea. Not like a yacht today. They could have fallen off the mast. They could have died of scurvy. A lot of the seamen died. And now we're a generation that is addicted to drugs and pornography. And the president yesterday says that we can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. That's a good thing, right? No, you're wrong, not according to the vermin in the media. If you can believe what I'm about to tell you, Trump comes out as the first president to try to end the opioid epidemic, and the rats, the sewer rats in the media with suits and ties and dirty dresses, the sewer rats in the media say, it's not enough. Lydia, why didn't he do more, Lydia? We've interviewed some heroin addicts who said they're glad to hear it, but the president has not gone far enough. Well, how far did Obama go in ending the opioid epidemic? Like nowhere? He didn't even lift a toe. So no matter what Mr. Trump does, these sewer rats in the media will say he didn't do enough, or he was wrong, or he did this, he did that. I could go on all day long about my hatred. It's becoming not just distaste, anger, rage. It's absolute hatred for these sewer rats in the media. They have destroyed the world, and now they're destroying the country. You may think that they are innocent and just doing it for fun, but you have no idea what damage they're doing to this country and to the world. And I will tell you right now, if you think that there's not going to be a rebound effect to the Wolf Blitzers of the world and what they are doing, Mr. Blinky with the white beard, who should have been a tie salesman in the garment district of New York instead of a newsman, he has the same mentality as a tie salesman as far as I'm concerned. One question after the other giving them away. It's unbelievable to me. So the president says, okay, we're going to be the first generation that ends the opioid epidemic, and they attack him, even though no other president tried to do it like this. Listen to the president in clip one, will you please?
Beyond the shocking death toll, the terrible measure of the opioid crisis includes the families ripped apart, and for many communities, a generation of lost potential and opportunity. This epidemic is a national health emergency. Unlike many of us we've seen in our lifetimes, nobody has seen anything like what's going on now. As Americans, we cannot allow this to continue. It is time to liberate our communities from this scourge of drug addiction. Never been this way. We can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. We can do it.
Well, that is right. And, of course, what you start with is handcuffs and an FBI task force and all of the glass buildings in Connecticut that sell drugs. Oh, I'm not talking about the street gangs. They're low level compared to the pharmaceutical companies that make OxyContin. Can anyone explain to me why the manufacturer of OxyContin is not in handcuffs? I can answer the question. Because their names are on the board of every museum in the world. They bought their way to the top, as has been said many times and many different ways. In America, what is red in the first generation becomes red, white, and blue in the third generation. In other words, that built on blood then becomes patriotic 2 generations later. It's sickening to me that those who manufacture OxyContin are not stopped. Tell me why, if let's say they're making 1 billion, let's say there's 1 billion prescriptions for drugs a year. I'm making up a number. 1 billion prescriptions for OxyContin, and each prescription contains 10 pills, so that's 10 billion pills. And the company that makes it is making 30 billion pills. Tell me why the family in charge of that company is not in prison. Answer. Why? Take a look at your Congress and you'll have your answer. That's all. What do you think a lobbyist is? Now, you may not know this, but I've known it from the beginning, and I boasted about it from the beginning. No, it's not about me. It's about the president. Listen to this, because he's the only president in modern American history who can say this. Wolf Blitzer, you crawling insect, you. Listen to 05, you crawling insects in the media.
I learned myself. I had a brother, Fred. Great guy. Best looking guy. Best personality. Much better than mine. But he had a problem. He had a problem with alcohol. And he would tell me, don't drink. Don't drink. He was substantially older, and I listened to him, and I respected, but he would constantly tell me, don't drink. He'd also add, don't smoke. But he would say it over and over and over again. And to this day, I've never had a drink. And I have no longing for it. I have no interest in it. To this day, I've never had a cigarette. Don't worry, those are only two of my good things. I don't want to tell you about the bad thing. There's plenty of bad things, too. But he really helped me.
So here is a president who has never had a drink and doesn't smoke, who should be a role model if we had, other than what we have in the media, which are sewer rats disguised as objective reporters. It's sickening to me. He is a great role model, but because of the sewer rats in the media, they turn him into Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. You throw in anyone you want. And that is because most of the people in the media are drug addicts. I don't think you understand to what extent drug addiction pervades the media. Now, we've been hearing about the sex thing that's going on in the media. We've been hearing about one after the other getting busted for this, for doing that. That's another lie, by the way. It's another big story that I want to talk about. And I'll throw this question out right now before I get back to the drug question. Women only. Do you believe all the women who are saying that they were molested or sexually assaulted by people in the media? Do you believe them all? I mean, it's just laughable on the face of it to think that all of them are telling the truth. When many of these women who are coming forward, let us put it to you this way, are not vestal virgins, either in their souls or in their bodies. Most of them would strip naked on Sunset Boulevard in front of a Cub Scout troop in order to get on the front of page 6, to get some ink in the New York Post. So now all of a sudden, oh, George Bush was in a wheelchair, but he touched my leg. The guy's paralyzed, for God's sakes. Why would you even run a story like that unless you're a sewer rat? Why? Because Bush is a Republican and an American patriot. And so that's why the sewer rats would run that story. There used to be a time that they would say, we're not going to run something like that. There's no verification. Those days are over. The days are over. So I wanted to go back to a more fundamental question, and this week we had some pretty hot questions on the show, which were, why is America fascinated with gangsters? Are you a sugar baby? Where is the Albert Einstein or Jonas Salk amongst the Jewish people of our time? Who embarrasses you the most in your own ethnicity? Why are we seeing God mentioned more than ever before? What happened to logic and reason on college campuses? And what has Trump done to make you think you hate him so much? Those are the questions that caught fire on the show this week. And again, the phone number is 855-407-28. But here's a little factoid coming along. I'm going to ask you a question as if I'm a teacher in a school, well, in a college, doesn't matter. And I'm going to say to you, which nation do you think has the highest rate of consumption of illegal drugs? Listen to me. Which nation consumes the highest amount of illegal drugs per capita? You're going to be shocked by the answers. It's not the United States of America. And I'll give it to you. I'll break it down by nation. Don't even call on that, because you're just going to Google it and it's going to be boring, and all you want is a free copy of God, Faith, and Reason. You know, the days of asking a question and expecting you to wait for an answer are over. With Google now, everyone's an Albert Einstein in 3 seconds. Don't call on that. I'll give you the answers myself. Clint, don't take any calls on the nation thing, because they looked it up on Google already. Phone number 855-407-2882. So I wanted to go to the most fundamental question of what is freedom. Because we keep hearing the term bandied about by conservatives, which is they're selling freedom. Freedom is their stock and trade. That somehow they know what freedom is. No one else ever heard of the word. It was not invented before they came along. No one ever heard of freedom. No one knows what freedom is. They got the book on freedom. No one else knows what freedom is. So I'm going to ask you, what is freedom? Because if we are a free nation, as we think we are, if we are the freest nation on earth, then why are we enslaved by drugs, pornography, and other addictions? If we're so free, then why are there so many drug addicts and alcohol addicts? If we're so free, why are we so addicted to pornography? And then I keep hearing that if you're really free, you're anti-government. Really? Is that true? So you want anarchy now? Who do you want running the streets? The criminal gangs? Well, they say, no, I don't mean free of all government. We need the police. Why, we love the men in blue. Why, we support them. Do you? What else do you support in government? Do you support red lights, yellow lights, and green lights on the highway and stop signs? Why, yes, we support those things. Oh, so you support that. Well, do you support anything else in the government? Well, yes, but we believe in limited government. We're anti-big government. We are the freedom-loving Americans, the patriots. We're the great Americans, and the others are all bad. Okay, so what do you mean you don't believe in government? Certainly you have to have limited government, don't you? Well, if you have a limited government, so you agree that there needs to be some government. So if you agree there has to be some government, we have to decide as the governed what we want governed and what we want controlled. That's the real question, Plato, isn't it? Yeah, so therefore, Glaucon, what do we do next? Well, Glaucon says what we have to do next is arrest all the pornographers and ban all pornography and seize all the assets of all the pornographers that they have accrued over the last 30 years, even if they've hidden the money with their children, grandchildren, grandmothers, or in the Cayman Islands. Seize all of their money, use all of the money for pornography rehabilitation, and put the rest of them in prison for the rest of their lives. I know you're applauding inside your hearts. Now we'll go down the next step. What do you do about the drug addiction problem? Well, you could spend money on treatment from today until tomorrow. It's not going to have much of an effect. Everybody knows the recidivism rate on drug treatment is very, very high. Okay, and there's a reason for it. The real answer is not treating drug addiction. The real answer is stopping the flood of drugs into America. I told you many years ago I went to Malaysia, and I was shocked when I was driving in from the airport at Kuala Lumpur to see a gigantic billboard the size of an apartment building that said, using drugs in Malaysia is punishable by death. It was very clear that there was a real campaign to stop the use of drugs in Malaysia, and they punished drug dealers by killing them, and there was a reason for it, because they were near the Golden Triangle where drugs are produced. And they knew that the entire nation would be addicted to drugs unless they cracked down on the drug dealers. I don't hear anyone talking about any of these things, by the way. So these are some of the questions that I'm thinking about. And if you care to join the conversation today on the Savage Nation Friday edition, I will give you the answer in a moment of which countries consume the largest amount of illegal drugs. You probably will be shocked by the answer because it is not the United States of America. And I will also explain to you not only which countries consume the highest amount of illegal drugs, the largest quantity of illegal drugs, but the drugs they are consuming. You'll be shocked when you hear the answer. Trust me, it's worth waiting for. Back in a minute on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
And the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice.
So who do you blame for the drug epidemic? Well, everybody. It's that simple. Blame everybody but the president. Now, Nancy Reagan, to her credit, had a campaign called Just Say No. It had some effect upon an entire generation who learned to just say no to the scum of the earth who were trying to get him to try a marijuana cigarette or a little cocaine or God knows what else. It worked to a certain extent. It probably saved a lot of lives. So now we have a president who is a conservative who is being attacked by the sigmoid colognes in his own party. That's actually elevating him too high up the channel. but since this is a family show, I will call them the sigmoid colons of the body politic. I'd rather call him something else. Can you imagine that his own party is acting like worse than his worst enemies? Well, I'm shocked by it, right? I didn't write about it in Trump's War. I think I'll tell you one minute, for 1 second now, at the risk of your displeasure, what I predicted in Trump's War, which is why it's still selling wildly. What did I say? I said Trump faces relentless opposition from special interests in both parties who stand to lose trillions if Trump's America First policies become the law of the land. Not only will Trump have to overcome progressive ideologues, neoconservative ventriloquists, I think you know who they are. They're part of the cartel that keeps me off certain television shows because they're afraid of my intellect, my intelligence, my education, and my power. Connected corporate interests and a military-industrial complex bent on permanent war. He will also have to fight progressive beliefs even he and his otherwise conservative appointees have unwittingly accepted. But there's an entire chapter in Trump's War about the Republican Party, so trust me, this is nothing new. Chapter 8 is entitled Trump's War Against the Rhinos, the Party versus the People, Republican Trade Traitors, a wall or a fence or a virtual wall. So, trust me, I see it coming, saw it coming, knew it was coming. I'm not simply an apologist for Donald Trump. I'm an apologist for America, so if that's my deficit, then sue me for it. Now, these are some of the countries. God, it's only 40 seconds left. I'm going to gag on it. I don't have time to do what I want to do. I need 3 full hours without interruption. I need no ads. I need no calls. One of these days, I'm going to tell the syndicator, I want an ad-free day. I don't want any breaks. And I'm going to get up here like Fidel Castro, and I'll give you 3 straight hours of uninterrupted savage. And you're going to hear what I really feel, because once I get going, my mind will get going even more. And once my mind gets going, I'm not blocked in my flow. I'll be able to express myself. Right now, all you're getting are postcards from my soul. You're not getting a letter from my soul.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Hey, that's so cool. That's so cool, guys. To round them up and hang them. Not these people in particular. Just those who glorify drug use, which would be everyone in the entertainment business. So now we're seeing a big scandal of Harvey Weinstein. When have you last heard about the scandal of the fact that he's been promoting violence in his movies from the get-go? And rampant sexuality in his movies from the get-go. You say, well, are you a prude? No. Do you want censorship? I'm not so sure I don't. How's that? I don't know. I grew up in a time where there was self-censorship. I grew up in a time where the film producers wouldn't dare produce this kind of salacious material. And so there was no need for censorship at that time. I also grew up in a time when I remember my father again saying to me, have you noticed that in every movie with criminals, the criminals always die or go to jail at the end? I said, I didn't notice that. He said, well, the movies have to be produced like that, he said to me, because the government wants the message to go out that crime does not pay. I said, that makes sense. So you say, oh, that was terrible. What kind of freedom is that? That you're not letting the Harvey Weinsteins of the world show you that crime pays. We want freedom. We want total freedom in America. We want the Weinsteins to be able to show every little boy that it's good to be a criminal and you'll get away with it. And your friends who will kill themselves studying are the morons. That's the kind of freedom we want here. That's what we want in America today, to allow the Weinsteins of our time to run roughshod over the country, over the soul of the nation. No, I think the government's got to get involved in the movies, got to get involved in the drug epidemic, which Trump says he's doing. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. More treatment? Big deal. Half the treatment facilities are owned by drug cartels, so far as I can tell. They get you coming and going. Well, look into the board of directors of drug treatment facilities. Why don't you see if there's any interlocking corporate directorships between the treatment facility giants and the manufacturers of hard drugs. See if they're not sitting on pharmaceutical boards and on treatment boards. And then you'll understand why nothing will really happen. It could even be worse than that for all I know. If I were writing the script, it would be much worse than that. But I'm not a script writer. I'm only a talk show host. I have a limited knowledge of everything. My limited knowledge, one man of 7 billion has a very limited knowledge of the world. But with the limited knowledge that I have, I express it. It's that, it's very interesting. I actually thought of that for the first time, because if you're in the media, you get megalomaniac. You become a megalomaniac, and you think that you know everything, and you're smarter than everybody. And then when the microphone goes off or the Klieg lights go off, and you got to get up in the morning, and there you are again, the same exact worm that God made. The same thing made from that foul drop. That same thing you are. And you got to get yourself up and wash your face and have your coffee or your chai or whatever you make to make yourself better than the next man. Not coffee, of course, if you're superior and you're a vegan. You wouldn't have something as evil as coffee. You have something like chai, some special drink, only for you, made only for you, at the 7,000-foot range, picked by dwarfs of a certain spiritual class. God forbid someone should touch the leaf that you're drinking, who is impure. And then at night, after your workday is over, all you purity freaks, you go to a nightclub till 4 o'clock in the morning and fill yourself with garbage. The next day, of course, you're a vegan again, drinking chai, lecturing everybody on white privilege and racism. And the cycle continues. There's another addiction in this country, which is an addiction to lies. The lie of white privilege. What a convenient way to hate white people. What a convenient, brilliant way to attack an entire race through racism and call yourself purer and holier than thou. But getting back to the issue of the top 8 countries consuming illegal drugs, I promised this to you 20 minutes ago. Here's the list. Number 1, roll the drums, Jim. Do we have any drum roll? No, it's too hard to do with the list. Poor Jim. I asked him to do 2 minutes. It's Friday, for God's sakes. I got to give this guy a break. We're having fun in the studio. Yesterday I had a good day. I knew it was coming today. I knew I was too happy yesterday. I knew today would be a crash. Today's a crash Friday. I'm very upset over a lot of things, which I'm not going to express to you. It's not your business. The number 1 nation that uses drugs is, roll the drums in your head, Iran. That's right. Holier than thou Iran. Strict Muslim, strictly Muslim Iran, holier than everybody, with the mullahs running everything. Those pure mullahs, you know how good they are, don't you? Suffers one of the highest opiate drug addiction rates in the world. 14.32% per capita use heroin. Even though it's an oppressive religious government, even though Islam is allegedly against drug use, isn't it odd that Iran is at the top of the list? Is it the top of the list? And that the country's drug of choice are opiates? How is that possible? I thought the mullahs were so frum. I thought they were so pure. I thought the mullahs were so clean. I thought the mullahs were so great as role models. Highest, top of the list of countries consuming illegal drugs. 14.32% use heroin. Why? How is that even possible? Why? Because Iran's location in the Persian Gulf is an important transshipment point for Southeast Asian heroin on its way to European markets. Just remember the French connection. But heroin is not the only problem in Iran. Drugs are also being brought in by the trainload from Afghanistan, mainly opium. Oh, you didn't know opium was grown in Afghanistan? Did you know that's why all the American boys were dying there? To keep the old trail open? Make sure come on, that's an absurd conspiracy theory. I know that. All these boys are not sent there. They're sent there for freedom. The boys are sent there to be butchered for freedom. What if it turns out we're just a Hessian force that's being sent in to make sure the drugs keep flowing? Because the odd part about that one, and I'm almost reluctant to say it because it makes me very nervous to say it, the Taliban oppose the growth of poppies. Did you know that? Oh, yeah. Yeah. We want them to have the freedom to grow poppies. How does that figure out? So Iran suffers one of the highest opiate addiction rates in the world. They also have a big problem with synthetic drugs. And by the way, this is an odd one. Even though there's a strict penalty in the Islamic Republic of Iran, They regularly enforce the death penalty for drug offenses, and yet they have one of the highest rates of drug use in the world. So I'm not so sure the death penalty would even work. What would work? Do I have an answer for you? I'm only one of 7 billion. Unlike others in the media, I am not God Almighty. I'm only a talk show host. Roll the drums if you found them, Jim. We'll give him number 2. Any kind of sounder. That was a 5-minute break for you to find. Oh, he found them? Look at that. It was like a one-man job here. Poor guy. Should have 12 people in the studio, not one. I should have a sound effects man, a coffee man, a tea man, a chai man. Right? Poor Jim has to do it all. United Kingdom is at number 2, alcohol, 13.65% capita. So they're boozers in England. A bunch of drunks. 1.6 million people in England are alcohol dependent. But listen to this. The treatment rate is very low because they don't want to be treated. Well, they don't want to be treated. They love being drunks. It's part of their tradition. In other words, it's their tradition to be drunkards in England. They don't want that stopped. What are you, crazy? Be treated? Why, we want to go to the pub and get loaded and collapse in the street and have our skirts fall up to our navels at 6 o'clock in the morning. So the garbage man finds us in the street like a pail of garbage. That's womanhood in England. We don't want to be like the other countries. We want to be free. Roll the drums, Jim. I'll give him number 3 now. And coming in at number 3 of the top countries consuming illegal drugs is France. They're pillheads. You didn't know that the French are not winos anymore. They're pillheads. Since they gave up wine, they became pillheads. 13.2% of the population are addicted to pills. And that's because it's easier to procure painkillers in France than the U.S. And prescription drug prices are cheaper in France, all you socialists. That's why you love socialism. And so they're cheaper, more accessible. A bottle of painkiller meds can reach a price of $133 in the United States, while the same bottle of killing pills could cost in France about $57. And the 3 predominant painkillers consumed by the winos, the ex-winos in France, are Valium-like compounds, benzodiazepines, buprenorphine? Buprenorphine. Oh, they made a buprine molecule on morphine. Interesting. And methadone. Oh, yeah, old methadone. Methadone is more addictive than heroin, according to people I've interviewed. Treatment, yeah, real treatment. I don't know if you know the history of morphine, heroin, and methadone. I'll give it to you in a nutshell. It's very interesting to me as a former student of pharmacology. This country was addicted to the drug of morphine when it was legal, talking 1900 era. Morphine was in so many different over-the-counter products, elixirs and this and syrups and distillates and that. They even gave morphine-based products to babies who were teething. So an entire generation before World War I was addicted to morphine-related products in America. So this is really nothing new. But the addiction to morphine became so great that the scientific community was asked to come up with a synthetic derivative of morphine that would produce some pain-killing properties without being addicted. So the scientists produced 3,6-diacetyl-morphine, which means they added acetyl groups to the morphine molecule, and then it was proposed to be much safer than morphine while affording similar, if not superior, pain-relieving qualities. So they released the equivalent of the 3,6-diacetyl-morphine, and it was very popular because that product, 3,6-diacetyl-morphine, is heroin. Heroin was produced in the laboratories as a cure for morphine addiction. Okay, so then the heroin addiction became a bigger problem than the morphine addiction. Spin the clock forward 50 years, now we come to treatment for heroin. So the government scientists come up with methadone. Hey, how many times have you seen poor drug addicts? Oh, here's the thing, take the thing, suck the thing, drink the thing, take the pill, got to take the pill and the treatment. Now it turns out that junkies were more addicted to methadone, which was highly available on the streets because it was such a great high that methadone became a drug of choice for a lot of people addicted to to a heroin. So I don't have an immediate answer to the problem. I'm giving you the top countries consuming illegal drugs, because I think it's a fascinating thing to learn that Iran is at the top of the list, even though it's a strictly Muslim nation, and that there's a death penalty for drug offenses. And then number 2 is UK with booze consumption. And number 3 are the pillheads over in France. They're no longer using wine. They're using pills. They love their Valium. Liberté, equality, fraternité, and, of course, benzodiazepine.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Michael Savage, weekdays from noon to 3 on Talk Radio 560 KSFO.
Well, we all know that nothing is more essential than protecting your home, but getting traditional home security happens to be a punishing and expensive task. I've gone through it, and I found a better way. And you can protect your home a better way, a simpler way, a cheaper way with Simply Safe Home Security. Everyone has been locked into a long-term security contract at some point if they own a property. And you're on the hook for a number of years, 3 years, $45, $55 a month. And if it's hardwired, the installation cost me and you a fortune. And this new company, Simply Safe, got rid of everything that makes home security a hassle. They make it very easy for you. No long-term contract, no obligations, award-winning home security. Tech Magazine, CNET, calls Simply Safe Better, Smarter Home Security. And your home is protected around the clock with 24/7 professional monitoring. If there's trouble, they send the police, right? The service costs just $15 a month with Simply Safe. That's 3 times less than what the other guys charge. No hidden fees. So if you want to protect your home today, buy Simply Safe at your local Best Buy and have your home protected by tonight. Or visit simplysafesavage.com, 10% off. You heard me. simplysafesavage.com for 10% off your system. SIMPLISAFE, savage.com. It's a great system. Well, I'm not going to do what I normally do right now, which is repeat all my topics, because I'm exhausted as it is. I'm not going to repeat what we're talking about. I'm not going to say to you, what is the most drug-addicted country, because I'm telling you what it is. I'm not going to ask you if you think all of the women who are saying, oh my, he touched me, are telling the truth, because I've already done that. But I am going to ask you in the next hour, have you been wrongfully convicted by a greedy, vicious prosecutor who himself or herself should be in prison? Because I have some prosecutorial horror stories that you're not going to believe when you hear them. Something that will not make it to Wolf Blitzer, since he's part of the government media complex. And that's the government media legal complex. 40 years after locking him up for a murder he did not commit, a former prosecutor apologized to a 55-year-old Philadelphia man after a lifetime behind bars. You hear this? He said, whoops. Gerald Dugan, a prosecutor in the homicide division of the Philly District Attorney's Office from 75 to 81, was an assistant DA when he prosecuted the murder of an egg deliveryman named Charles Haig. A 15-year-old boy named Kevin Brinkley was charged in the case. But the teen's relatives insisted at the time that his younger brother Ronald actually committed the robbery on December 22nd, 1977. Are you ready for the rest of the story? The man in jail for all these years was paroled last week. Just paroled last week. And where is the prosecutor who threw him in the clink for a lifetime behind bars? He's chairman of a Philadelphia law firm. And what was his punishment for doing this? He apologized to Brinkley after inviting him to his office. Isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet? The lawyer who threw him in jail for his life and made a mistake is now a big lawyer in a big law firm. He said, you never saw a sunrise, you never saw a sunset, you never drove a car, you never fell in love, blah, 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 blah. And I want you to know I'm responsible for that, because I told the jury what they should do, and they did it. Really, is that right? And that's enough? You said, whoops, is that it, Mr. Prosecutor? No, not in my world. Not in my world. My world, you go to jail now. You go out in handcuffs, and your whole life is ruined like you ruined his.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.